Hey, everybody! Welcome to Tavern Talk,
Hi.
the first
Hello.
ever show that we're going to try like this. We've got some of the members of the Tavern Knights show here with us. You got me, Chris, the Dungeon Master. Down below me is Russ, who you probably know from both Tavern Knights and um, the Nerds with Alcohol show.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Over there is my lovely wife Renee, who plays Klimbrum on Tavern Knights, and
Hello.
then down there in the other corner is Pete, my brother-in-law, who plays Euchariah, the halfling uh, wizard.
Wizard.
Evening.
Wizard.
Wizard.
So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to sit around. We're going to talk about the campaign, how it's going, what's going on, and along with that, we'll probably talk some regular so just some plain D&D stuff too, some different things, answer questions, things like that. I know we kind of did this, excuse me, on the show when Russ missed, and we did kind of a little preemptive one of these. But why don't we go ahead and have you guys basically introduce your characters for people that might not know them.
All right, well, I'll start. My character is Merikeris. He's an Asamar, or Asamar. He's an Asamar paladin.
He's an ass.
He has a bit of an ass, no. He's a good guy. He's a little bit of a cliche, but I like it that way. He's a good guy. He's trying to do his best as a paladin of Heronius, the god of valor, and going out into the world to do good and spread the good word of Heronius, and doing a fair to Midland Irish accent, as I've been told. Although the one Irish guy we know that has actually lives in Ireland who watches the show says my accent is atrocious. So,
Well,
But you try.
I do try.
This is a fantasy world.
It is a fancy word.
So
You're not really
Irish
you're not really
accent-
Irish,
Yeah, exactly.
I am genetically.
right?
No,
but I
no,
mean,
no,
your
Irish,
character's
but-
not.
But my character's not. Yeah.
Karis is not Irish, so
That is a nice mug.
Isn't it though? It is. It was a
That
red
looks like-
fair.
Yeah, glass
purchase.
blowers.
Yeah, from about
nice.
15 years ago now, something like that. But this is my soda pop mug. Pretty much.
Nice.
My Pepsi mug.
Sorry, I'm just listening to make sure that I'm actually coming through. Okay,
Yes, you are.
I am.
I already
Okay.
double checked.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, Samarikaris, paladin of Heronius, having a great time, loving the character, and I'm actually really excited to see how he is going to progress as a character and as a paladin and whatnot. I kind of left him kind of cliche-ish because I want to see if the game will actually, if I can grow him through the game, you know, as opposed to being like having this hard set kind of plan for him. I just was like, I want him to be a good guy, a nice guy who's trying to do good in the world, and see where that takes us. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Renee, why don't you go ahead and tell us
Yeah.
about Klimbrum?
I play Klimbrum Ironfist, who is a very young dwarven monk, and she is currently in I don't want to say turmoil, but she's in a personal conflict within herself of wanting to keep her clan and her family happy and proud, but also trying to seek her own happiness. And she's coming to realize that her own happiness does not line up with keeping the clan proud. So she's in a constant debate with that. And that actually grew from the game. That was not my initial concept for the character. So
cool.
Yeah.
And Pete, what's Euchariah like?
Euchariah, he's a little bit of an oddball. Obviously, a halfling wizard is not exactly something that is very common, but a little bit of what has been revealed so far, he kind of grew up almost by himself, just having a wizard mentor that found him when he was just a like a very young child and kind of raising him as her own, and teaching him the like the ways of magical arts. And then an event happened where he became completely on his own and kind of have to make his own way and live on his own until he made his way until our very first game over a year ago, where all of our characters eventually met. But until that particular point in time, he kind of was always like by himself. So he's a little bit more awkward with social interactions, not exactly sure how to work in a group or how to react to certain, how certain characters feel. Like the one, and like one of our last games, so when Klimbrum was attacking my character, it was really cool, interesting role play. The fact that like had such an impact on Renee's character.
Yeah.
And at first, I purposely kind of role played that in a way that was a little bit awkward, rather than just like, kind of giving her like a weird look. Like, what did you go ahead and do? And seeing that all of a sudden her character break down and he didn't know what to do, and trying to like change it over because he's a little bit awkward in those type of situations. Or he throws out a fireball while his teammates are in a little bit of a close shot, and doesn't take the radius into full consideration, and then is apologizing to everyone that is singed later on. So
Poor Bennett hasn't had eyebrows.
Any adventurer should know that at some point in their career, they're going to take some friendly fire from a fireball. Almost any, any adventurer, at least 8th level and up is like, oh yeah, no. I lost my eyebrows when fighting an ogre or fighting a troll. It was a troll, yeah. We knew fire hurt the guy, and I got too close. And,
but he's afraid of goblins, but he has no problem going up against a dragon. So he has his own quirks.
Uriah is a super ballsy character. Except with goblins.
Yeah.
But it's been a very interesting character, and it's been a lot of fun to play. And honestly, like that whole goblin thing actually kind of came about similar to what you were saying. Kind of developed naturally within the game, and like his apple juice fetish and all sorts of other things. Like just kind of developed it through each of the games that we kept on playing. And it's just
the apple juice thing cracks me up on the regular.
Same.
On the regular, because it's just like. You walk into a tavern and you'll have a meat and I'd like a wine, and of course we have one of our other players with his half-elf wine.
His half-elf wine.
Yeah, and it's like and then you guys say, excuse me, could I have some apple juice, please? And I'm just like, oh my god, it's just I picture just this halfling walking up, bellying up to the bar.
Exactly.
Up, do you have any apple juice? And then the innkeeper is like,
does it come in pints?
I don't have any apple juice. What the fuck who is this guy?
Yeah, here's some cider.
Who left their kid in here? It's just.
I also love that when we go on like a long trek, that apple juice naturally ferments after a while, and your apple juice does slowly begin to naturally ferment.
I think one time I poured it out because of that.
You had to make
it's vinegar. Great.
You had to make like a Constitution saving throw.
I think something like that. Yeah.
But you need to remove
just brilliant.
No, I honestly, Pete, I've been really getting a kick out of your gameplay because you are one of the less experienced people in the group. You're one of the rookies, and Chris and myself and Ed, who unfortunately left the game, have been playing for years. And I think all three of us at some point remarked about how well you're doing, particularly when it comes to the role play aspect, particularly. And honestly, you got the getting the rules down pretty solid too. Mm-hmm. But that's the rules are easy when you really think about it. The rules are just rules. The hardest part about playing D&D is playing a character, is getting into the actual role-playing aspect of it. There's a lot of people that don't role-play. They may play D&D, but they don't like speak for their character. They say, my character says this, and they don't really
and
speak
actually
for
that's
them.
How I felt at first. Like in the very beginning, I'd say for probably the first 3 to 6 months, I kept on saying, I kept on doing it in the third person. Yukuraya does
Right.
this.
It's not uncommon.
He will
Yeah.
say this, and then I don't know where it just kind of started becoming more fluid, where it's like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and do this, or I bring Klimbrim to the side and I start saying this. I became more embodied within the character.
Well, I think it helped
Same.
not to like toot my horn, but I think it helped having gamers like
Yes.
Ian, who speaks for his his character, and Ed and myself, who speak as our characters, to kind of like show you that it's a possible thing, and it's not, I think it adds a lot to the gameplay personally.
Absolutely.
I agree.
A lot more.
Yeah, I mean, we don't
watching
hold,
Critical Role.
Yeah, we don't hold to it as close as Critical Role. Critical Role, really, I mean, they are their characters that entire time that they're playing. If they say something, it's their character saying it. Because they've made comments before about, like, they'll make some comment about, like, a modern
They'll make a
thing.
joke or something.
Yeah, and they're like, what is this thing? And the other guy, everyone else just starts getting on them like, hey, what is this thing you're talking about?
Yeah.
And that's one way to try and keep the game on track. But I don't believe in holding to quite that rigid a thing.
One time
I've been in games where you have to, like, raise your hand and say, out of character, or OOC.
Oh, okay.
That type of thing, and then you'll say something out of character. But
particularly if you're in a live action role playing situation, I was in a game one time. One of the game I played with Sean Nicolin, who's been on our Nerds with Alcohol show a couple times. There was somebody cast a spell that basically it was a spell of confusion or something. I can't remember what it was, but it caused the character to basically. Everything that the character said were the things that the player was saying. So it was just hilarious. So like all of a sudden, this warrior starts saying like, oh yeah, can somebody get me another slice of pizza? And like, people are like, what are you talking about? What is this? What is pizza? What do you, it's like,
It might be
it was
possessed
really
or something.
fucking funny. It was really fucking funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like in the other game that I play with Chris, where I'm the most inexperienced player because I only started playing D&D the same time that Pete started with this campaign. I played a single one shot in college, which actually turned me off of D&D because it was a bad experience.
Yeah, didn't the DM like hit on you or something?
Yeah, DM was desperately trying to get into my pants, and and but in the other game, the other game's a lot of fun, but it's very different because everybody has been playing for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
That it's like quick play.
Oh,
It's
wow.
just
Okay.
yeah, they do role play a little bit. And when they do role play, it's great. Like, I mean, the one character who is a human fighter just wanted to duel the barbarian for like the great axe just to be a dick.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious. But they don't the group overall role plays a little bit, but just like all the decision making and everything's just like quick time. And I mean, it's fun, but it's very different.
Sometimes it just takes that one moment. Like I was in high school, or I've been gaming since I was 8. I've been playing D&D since I was 8. Now, granted, when you're that young, you're not sticking to the rules all that closely. But as I got a little older, got better at playing the rules and whatnot. But when I got into high school and started playing a game and actually started playing I was one of the younger people. I was like a sophomore, but I was playing. Me and my buddy Brian, who's one of my classmates, brought me over. He was like, his mom's boyfriend was running a game. And his mom's boyfriend was only like 8 years older than us. I mean, she was dating a much younger guy at the time. It was kind of funny. They got married and everything too. And they're still together.
He said, remember when I asked your mom out to the prom?
Yeah, dude, totally. Fucking totally, man. And
I'm not one to talk, so
quite true. But in 1989, 1990, this was a little bit more different. And so Jim and Gene are still together, and that's great.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah. And so Jim was the DM, and the other, besides Brian and myself, the other gamers were basically his college buddies, his good friends, and Gene played too. And it was the first time I had actually played D&D with girls, so that was kind of a cool thing. But they also all played their characters fairly well. Jean not so much. I mean, she was kind of like, well, my character does this, but and that was the first time I started like honestly like thinking about, okay, how is my character sound, and how would he react to these situations, and at the time too, I was getting into acting in high school too, so that was kind of what led to me being, slowly becoming that player, and there have been times when you kind of backpedal a little bit, depending. It also depends on the dynamic of the group too. I mean, if nobody else in the group is going to do it, you're less likely to do it.
I will say this is one of my favorite groups that I've ever actually run. In the year and a half that we've been playing, this group has been absolutely fantastic. As far as this is the group I've always been kind of looking for. It's the ones that they're interested in the game, and I think part of that is the newer players bring a new energy, but also just the idea that with this, you guys are playing your characters, you're really getting into the story, you're following the story, you're coming up with ideas and things like, well, what if this is what's going on? What if this is what's going on? Klimbrum is trying to decide what she needs to do about going back to school. Eucharia is trying to track down Maudlin. I mean, you've got all these different things going on inside the group. Everyone has their own agendas, but you've come together for this greater purpose, and you're helping each other out also.
Yeah.
And I feel says a lot about you as a DM, though, too, because, honestly, like the day after every time we finish a session, like I am on D&D Beyond, and I'm going through all my notes, D&D Beyond, trying to like just absorb everything that just happened, already thinking about the next game. Like 2 weeks can't get here fast enough. And even like last week, which was zero combat, fully RP, which was just a really great experience. And I honestly, that was one of my favorite moments of last game, Renee, was you and Phelan's like back and forth.
Just us BSing
talking
underneath a tree in the rain.
Brilliant. Loved it. It was
same.
It just showed so much emotion and heart that I thought that was just really great to actually see and really delve into the story. Coming out of that, though, there's just that excitement, and I'm excited about like my character, where it's going, your characters, where they're going, our interactions with it, and that all kind of comes to like you, Chris, that like pulling us all together, and I think that there's that.
I feel like our characters have gone through enough together now, because I mean, they fought a motherfucking dragon together at this point. Where our characters themselves are actually like beginning to trust one another and actually open up to one another and actually become friends.
Yeah, exactly. We're not just a group of people that have been thrust together and are just to complete a goal. Now our characters are starting to become friends or friendly, and
we're
care
getting a
about
house
each
together
other.
Now.
Right.
And
we're roommates now.
And we're trying to like say calling dibs on the like all the rooms, and we're like excited about it. But I think overall, like honestly, how much time has passed like truly in game from the start of the Temple?
Close to 3 months.
See, that's not really that much time, honestly, but but it really shows that how much has happened within those 3 months. That, that's how people like really come together, is through like
our characters were supposed to go back to the Temple of the Open Mind 12 weeks ago.
Yeah, we still haven't.
Well, no, not 12 weeks ago.
Not 12, about like
a month
8
ago.
weeks.
Yeah, about a month ago.
Yeah. So that's definitely something we're going to have to visit at some point.
That was our cliffhanger at the end of the last episode.
Right.
Alastasia's from the Temple of the Open Mind.
Is that?
Yeah, she's like so Bennick is like my best friend, but she is my best monk friend type thing.
I thought she came from your hometown.
No.
Okay.
No,
we're going to, well, I mean, you're going to meet Anastasia Friday, so.
Yeah, you would have probably seen her around.
My character may have.
Yeah, it could be from working at the temple. You would have seen her. She was
Yeah,
in
we
the
would have
library. She
studied
was in the
together.
library a lot.
Yeah, we studied together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Chris, I've been really enjoying this a lot too. I mean, I have had a lot of great games over the years that I've played in, and this one obviously very different because we're doing it virtually instead of sitting around the table now. And,
Hopefully not for much longer.
yeah, hopefully. I mean, in all honesty, this is also I got to admit the virtual situation definitely does make it easier. Like in some ways,
It makes it easier to get together and get together. There's no travel
Right.
time. You don't have to worry
Right,
about
exactly.
weather, things like
But
that.
We're doing it every 2 weeks instead of every month.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it is
And that-
much more likely, and that's actually what a lot of people have said about virtual gaming is that, well, it has definitely been easier for people to because you're right. The travel time can and getting the effort of getting home from work and then getting your shit together and throwing it in the car and getting over there and then and stuff like that. Whereas you don't got to do that with this. That being said, I still would prefer to sit around the table.
And that's the thing. Well, it is more convenient, and it has allowed us to continue to play during COVID, which I think is fantastic. It also allows me to play a game like the game that Renee was talking about, the other game that I run. I get to play with one of my best friends from high school who lives in Belfast.
Right.
So, I mean, we're playing with someone across the ocean. So
Right,
I think that's really cool that you can do that virtually. Roll20, where we started, definitely had some issues. I am a much bigger fan of Foundry, the new virtual tabletop that we're using. I am a huge fan of it currently.
There are several out there too. I mean, that's the other thing that the pandemic has done for gaming is created a lot more virtual tools for people to use.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Foundry is actually one of the newest. It came out during the pandemic last year.
Mm-hmm.
It came out like last May. But yeah, overall I like it, but there is something about sitting around a table with people and being in the same room. And when we were doing that, I truly enjoyed it, and it's going to be a challenge to figure out how we can stream the game still doing that. But I mean, at the time, by that point, we can probably get some more webcams at least, because
we may have to continue to webcam to continue to do the show. We may have to continue to do it virtually until we can figure out a way to do it, sitting at the tables and stuff like that. So, but it's still. I mean, yeah, we definitely need probably another at least one more additional webcam.
I think we need 1, 2, 3, 4 webcams total. Yeah, because there's one for me, one for one side of the table, one for the other side of the table that'll catch the end of the table as well, and then one for the map.
And the battle map, yeah. I mean, that's essentially how Crit Roll was doing it before the pandemic. They were doing 2 cameras, one for each side of the table, one facing Matt, and one for the battle map.
And I'm hoping that at least for some of them, we can actually do the 3D battle maps now, because I'm printing out a whole bunch of walls and dungeon tiles and stuff like that, which I think will be really cool.
Yeah, and I have
cool.
a 3D printer now too, and if you need me to do any of the prints that, chances are I may not even know what they're going to be used for, but I can do that too. I've been starting to do that a lot more.
Here, print this enormous dragon.
But it's been going pretty well. I just did a Jack Skellington for my youngest, who's absolutely obsessed with Nightmare Before Christmas, and I'm working on a portal gun right now for my oldest.
Cool.
It's like in multiple parts that you have to put together that he wanted to do. So it's been coming along pretty well.
Cool. All right.
I would like one of those someday.
Yeah, they're really cool. So what I wanted to ask you guys, to this point, I think I might have asked you two when you were on the show. I don't remember exactly everything we talked about, but so far in the campaign, is there one moment that has stuck out to you that was like your favorite or the ultimate oh shit moment, or just it doesn't have to be with your character. It could be with anybody's character, but something in the campaign that is it doesn't have to have been since we started doing the show either. This could be back before we even started streaming. So
I gotta say, for me personally, so far, it happened most recently when I'm shitting my pants and shitting my armor as Marikaris when that dragon revealed itself, and I'm like, fuck. And then Octavian casts Water Walk.
Oh god.
And I'm like, oh, this just got a lot easier. Because for those of you guys who didn't, if anybody that's watching or will watch it when we put this up on YouTube or whatever, the dragon, when we fought an adult black dragon we were all at level 6, which is a little low for fighting a black dragon. Granted, there were 7 of us, so that helped. And with 2 spell slingers and a pretty decent cleric as well, throwing spells. We had myself and Klimbrum and we still, although Ed wasn't there anymore, but we still had Bennick in the fight as well. So we had 3 solid fighters, a bard and a couple of actually another spell slinger. So 3 spell slingers and then a cleric. That's not terrible, but I was still shaking in my boots a bit. Dragons are always scary. They should always be scary, no matter what, no matter what level you are. You go face to face with the dragon, it should be scary. And top of it, the fact that this dragon was in the middle of a deep fucking lake in a cave. And I'm like, how are our fighters gonna get there? As an ASMR, I can spread my wings and I can fly and I can do that, but that lasts for a minute. So I'm like, fuck, how are we gonna do this?
Well,
Octavian casts Water Walk on the party, and I'm like, all right.
That was
getting my divine smite ready. I mean,
that for me that was one of the high points of the campaign so far. That was a great moment.
Seeing the look on his face going back and watching it, like watching him plan it, and like that's what he was planning, like the few minutes leading up to it.
And then my character goes out of his visual,
and
he's a human and can't see in the dark.
And he needed to make sure within like the right distances, and you can just tell that he was just preparing it. He had some Rich, I have to give credit to, that he had some really great moments. That one, and I also loved it when he came up with the whole putting the speak with the dead into the ring and giving it to Renee's character, since she speaks Dwarven, to be able to interact with the dead, like dwarf that. Before, like he's had like some really great like moments where coming up with those ideas.
That's gaming the game right there.
Richard is very calculating. Yes. Like he's like that just as a human.
Now, my understanding of the spell is that if you cast Speak with Dead, you can automatically understand them no matter what language they're speaking.
I don't think so. I think that's what we figured out, was that it's not.
Was that it?
I think he asked the question, like, if I cast it, can I understand it? And I think that you said no. So
that was the whole reason why we did that.
All right.
We found
I'm actually
workaround
looking it up right now.
Bring up my D&D Beyond as well.
The corpse must still have a mouth and can't be undead. You can ask 5 questions. The corpse knows only what it knew in life, including the languages it knew.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So that was pretty awesome. It's cool when that kind of thing happens too. When you are thrust upon a situation and it's like a light goes off in your head. You're like, wait a minute. I've got the perfect spell for this situation. And it could be a bullshit spell that you're just like, well, I'll take this just in case, I've played spellcasters before where I've had a spell that I always would take and have never used it. Just like, you never know when you might need, I don't know, create water or something like that, or create food and water. And it was just one of those things I always had in my spell, my spell book or whatever, ready to go. And then you're like, why do I keep putting this spell in my repertoire? Because I never fucking use it. But then you never know. You never, when that kind of thing. Now, Water Walk's a little different. That one comes in handy a lot more regularly than some. But
Yeah, but it's one of those things that he had prepared it that day, mostly because I think of the rivers and stuff that you guys kept having to traverse, and the fact that
Right.
at one point, earlier on,
he fell in, didn't he?
well, he
Yeah.
didn't, but Phelan did.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
He went boosh, and sank
we're-
like 10 feet down.
Right.
Well, that and also the fact that we kept finding potions of water breathing.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like any good RPG, it gives you tools that you will need for the boss at the end.
I'm not gonna use this elixir. I might need it for after the boss fight.
It's just interesting. It's just interesting because, like I said, I have had those moments too over the years where all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I got a great idea. It's gonna change the fucking thing, and that happens. Or I've seen it either myself or I've seen it happen before, like that moment that Rich had, and you're just like, you can see it happen in their head. You're like, oh my god, this is gonna be great. Or you talked about it afterwards and you're like, oh my god, that was the best. Yeah, I know, man, I just knew it. I was like, oh my god, I was sweating because I didn't want anybody to move out of range. And I knew that was something that Rich was dealing with, because it's like, shit, everybody's got to be, at a certain range.
What I loved about
those
it
are
was
the beautiful moments. Those are the beautiful moments.
And one of the things that I truly loved about it was he didn't metagame it.
Yeah.
He didn't say everybody stay close to me.
Yeah.
He let everyone do their thing and move to wherever they were going to move, and then it was his character's turn, and he's like, "Okay, now how can I do it?"
Yeah, that's one of the harder parts about playing a role-playing game is separating that and not being a metagamer. I mean, like I said, like myself or Ed, honestly, he was very familiar with the map that Chris was using and the adventure that Chris was using to kind of
that's right.
start our kind of as a basis to the kick things off.
The whole Phandalin was
the
a
way back
module that he said that he actually has run a couple times, right?
Yeah.
Right. So to his credit, he was doing a real good job, not using gamer information. I mean, like I said, I've been playing this game since I was 8. There's a lot of monsters that might get thrown at us, right? And I'm like, I know what that is. It's whatever, and it's a troll. It's a
roper.
It's a roper. It's the roper.
Oh, okay. So
that was an excellent example.
So that may be one of my favorite moments is like with the roper. Like, what was it? It was.
You were going to fireball and kamikaze everyone.
I was about to do that before Octavian took it down. Right. And then afterwards we're just kind of all staring around each other, and then he's like, and then it was my turn, and Octavian goes, "You have advantage on the next attack," and I'm like, okay, just because I'm mad at this thing, I just want to just stab it or something like that. And you're like, is that what you want to, Chris, you even is that what you want to do? And I'm like, sure.
Yeah, you said something about slicing it open.
Or but it's the fact that I had advantage on it because it was, I forgot what it was that was providing that. Whatever he did is a particular thing that lit it up. And
he did Guiding Bolt.
Guiding Bolt. Yeah.
That's an attack roll, but it was already dead, so you wouldn't have gotten advantage on it then.
No, but he just mentioned that, and that's why it kind of did it to me. And they're like, you know what, I might as well just try and just slice it open.
Yeah, you gutted it out of sheer anger.
Because I got grabbed and I had advantage on it. I'm like, go for it. And then there's everything poured out of it.
And then we got a 10 or 1,000 gold ruby out of it.
Right. So one of the things that I've always felt okay, so we are adventurers, and you're going to have some knowledge of creatures. If you're going to be a professional, dungeon crawler, an adventurer, a paladin, a mage, a sorcerer, whatever, you're going to have some general knowledge of some of the creatures you're going to encounter. So, I mean, one of those things is probably a dragon. You're going to know some things about a dragon because of stories that have been told.
You're going to have heard stories.
Right. And the training you might have gone under during your novitiate, remember that dragons breathe fire, and some dragons also breathe other things too. And dragons are smart, and dragons cast spells. And so there are going to be some things that you're going to walk in, you're going to see a dragon, you're immediately going to know, holy shit. you're going to know about. You might not have seen an owl bear, but you're going to have heard about them. You know, it's you got to kind of think about as when you're kind of trying to marry the idea between player knowledge and game and character knowledge. You got to remember that your character is going to know some basic stuff about some creatures. You know, like it's common knowledge to almost everybody that trolls hate fire, that fire counters trolls regeneration. So, or at least it was. I don't know if that's still a rule. But I mean, that was one of the things back in the old days, and in like second edition, like trolls reproduced asexually. They would like rip a finger off, and their finger would grow into an entire new troll over time. Yeah. So, and to defeat a troll completely, and it happens actually in the video games too, that you would have to hit it with fire or acid. Acid would work too to burn the red. You know, so that was one of those things that almost every adventurer going out into the world is gonna know that trolls hate fire. So I'm like, you know, I'm kind of like when I am thinking about that stuff when we encounter a creature, it's about basically trying to figure out, okay, how rare is this creature? Well, and if it's a rare creature, then maybe you're not going to know as much about it. But if it's something fairly common, like a dragon, you know, or a troll or an ogre, or whatever, you're going to understand that, oh, these are certain things that, you know. And that comes into play probably from Chris with dice rolls and okay, yes, your character would know this stuff and how difficult that dice roll might be.
Right, and it's things like nature rolls. That's one of the things I use nature for. Is you know, have I heard of this creature before? Have I come across, you know, readings? Because honestly, your characters were just starting out. Other than like Bennick, who had a longer history just because of the way that he made his character. His character was more
was an older soldier.
Was an older older soldier. I mean, he's in his mid 30s, whereas the rest of you are in, you know, are much
early
younger.
20s and stuff. Yeah. We're all a fairly young group.
I mean, not my character, but
my
character's young for her race.
Yeah,
right. Young for your race. And Lauka, she's young for her race as an elf. You know, she's
actually, I think our oldest character is probably Bennick or Phelan.
Yeah.
We don't know how old Uriah is either.
He's like 30.
Okay.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, elves and dwarves and halflings. I mean, humans, elves and dwarves and halflings all reach maturity at the same level. It's just that they are at the same time.
Yeah.
They don't. It's not like a dwarf isn't a teenager for 50 years. They are teenagers, and then they all reach maturity at the same age. It's just that they live
or approximately
so much longer.
Approximately, yeah. I mean, you know, they just live a ton longer. So you know.
So. That's one of the things. It's Bob that's in the chat here said that tavern tales of owl bears might have them be 25 feet tall and breathing acid. So that's part of it there.
Yeah.
Correct. Stinker face. Is that Bob?
That's Bob.
Oh, okay. Hey, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Okay. Dwarves and elf teens may have fought in wars.
Sure.
Going to one of your. Like to your original question though, Chris, about like some of our favorite moments.
Yes, back to that.
You know, we went on a little bit of a tangent.
Diverging
there.
and that's what we do. It's a Nerds with Alcohol production, man. That's what we do.
We should just call
diverge
instead of tavern talk. This should be just tangent talk.
So, like some of mine are like the more RP moments and like what happened, I think it was before stream, like the famous Elsa incident. You know, the fact that, you know, Phelan, like early on, just got with a barmaid and rolled a very poor constitution roll because he had like a really wild night. And it like impacted his gameplay for I think 2 sessions.
Yeah.
Exhaustion.
Yeah.
Now, I had exhaustion in the last game, and that was a pain in the ass, Chris.
That
was
that's just disadvantage on skill checks. That's not even like that's not like.
But that was just for one. But that was just for one session.
Yeah.
And that was at level 6, more manageable. Having exhaustion at like level 1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That having it for 2 sessions. That impacted, I think, his gameplay. But the fact that like his decision to go ahead and role play that, and then it negatively impacted him for 2 games.
Yeah.
Ian's a
Whereas,
hell of
like,
a gamer. He's a hell
You know,
of a
like
gamer.
he was dedicated to that, and he owned
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Well-
that was like one of my the fact that was a personal character choice on his part. To go with that.
Well,
And
He is. I think
Have to.
honestly, Ian has had the most laugh out loud moments.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
In our show. So
Well,
far, in our
the talk to botanicals, just
Yeah.
yeah,
the talk to plants spell, and then honestly, when like the entire party like pushed him into the room with that woman that you found,
Oh yeah. With the
and like
succubus,
shut the
we
door,
definitely threw him in there.
and like she turns out to be a succubus. Kisses him, like he makes the save and he still loses like 24 hit points.
Yeah.
And he's like, that was when I made the save. And he's just like pushing her away and he's yelling, help, 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 help.
And everybody else.
and we're all thinking like, oh, this is some foreplay or something like that, that they're going on, and we should really can you?
I've been real bummed if he had died or something. I love the fact
I would have
that
felt really bad.
really bad. I love the fact that when I cast my Find Steed spell and I was reading off the stats and stuff, and that my horse has an intelligence one number lower. No, one number lower than his.
Yeah.
He's only got a 7 intelligence. My horse has got a 6. So it's granted it's a magical creation, creation of magic and whatever, but still my horse
Hysterical.
is almost as
He's
smart.
not- yeah.
My horse is almost as smart as our bard.
Your horse reads at a 1st grade level. Phelan reads at a 3rd grade. But yeah, for some of my favorite moments, honestly, just in the last episode of Phelan and Klimbrum just chilling out in the rain smoking pipes, was probably one of my favorite moments.
Ripping some long hits, man.
That was actually really cool for me too, because I mean it was very human. It was very human moments. I mean, considering it was a half elf and a dwarf, but it was a very human moment when because you guys had been underground for days in a undead stench filled dungeon
cesspool.
Yeah. And then you get back outside and there's a warm summer rain coming down and you guys just kind of enjoyed it. And it was a lot of just, we're back outside, we're out from underneath the heaviness of the stone, and which probably didn't bother you as much as it did the rest of the group, but
but still.
But I think for Klimbrum, that was relieving to get out of that. I think that's part of your character, is that you almost reject being underground like that. That's not like really who you are, right?
Not every dwarf is necessarily like a
she has an inner conflict that she feels like she's a bad dwarf.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
which you even alluded to that during that conversation. Even
I like the fact that when you put in character arcs, or not arcs, but character
stories
features that are definitely maybe contrary to or counter to the stereotypes that Dungeons and Dragons has set up. Like I did kind of put in that, and I haven't really played it up as much lately, as much of an opportunity, and a lot because Ian has taken over that kind of thing. I wanted Marikars to be a little bit of a ladies' man, like he's one of his weaknesses is the pretty girls, that he was, because he comes from nobility, and kind of like he's the guy that would maybe go into the village and romance the milkmaids and whatnot, and
we have 4 characters that all have the same character flaw.
Right. Yeah. So I kind of was, because that's right. Klimbrum has also been, playing the field a bit too.
Yeah.
Particularly.
Lauka technically has that flaw as well.
Yeah.
But she hasn't slept around because apparently she's satisfied.
Yukurai is too clueless to dabble in that.
Right.
Lauka
I'm sure.
Lauka's been hilarious too. With just like, could you add a little zhuzh?
Zhuzh in a little bit. And it was funny too because like I remember I think it was Klimbrum was like had thought that she and Marikaris had been an item, and I was like, no, we've never been an item.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it clear that Lauka is like a little sister to me, or we're roughly the same age, but that she's the kind of that we've always had.
Oh yeah, that was another one of my favorite moments was when she was like having she was just super depressed about losing the diamond.
Yeah.
And you went on the monologue of, look, she had this pony one time and she wept for 3 days about it.
I made that up. I just made that up. I was actually proud of myself on that. I just like I pulled that out of my ass. Here you go. Story.
And honestly, like one of my other favorite moments, which I know was done on the spot because Pete alluded to it, was the first time that Euchariah asked for juice. That wasn't initially like in his character, right?
No, it was not. It was not. We had the fear of goblins determined early on because of what happened in my past. That was something that was a character flaw of mine that I took on. But the juice was completely like spontaneous, like in the moment that I just.
Well, it's hysterical, and I love that it still comes up.
And I don't remember if it was. I think it might have been pre-stream, but when you Euchariah, when you guys were coming back from Cragmaw Castle, and Euchariah said, "Can we take a side trip?" You took everyone to where you grew up. And you saw the burned ruins, and actually kind of explained to them what happened. And
that was pre-stream, actually. Yeah. So I had a big character, like sharing moment where I revealed a lot about, where I came from, because it was within the such close proximity to where we were, and digging through the ruins of basically he grew up in a tiny little hut. He was found, grew up with a mage that taught him and found him when he was just like a baby. And just one day it was attacked by goblins. That's where his irrational fear came from. And the fact that he idolized his mentor so much that if goblins could defeat her, because in my mind, she died. Mm-hmm. So if a simple band of goblins can defeat her, my gosh, these are the most terrifying creatures imaginable. And it was my first time coming across them, and I'm running from them alone for the first time ever, trying to survive. And this is my return, and sharing that with all of you. I think that it you guys understood. You guys have been great trying to encourage me to grow beyond that, but and I trying to actually take that as part of my character to growing, be a little bit like with Razalim. And
he's got the goblin butler. Exactly.
And I try to that there are good goblins in the world also, that I shouldn't have this complete 100% irrational fear, that with your encouragement, with our travels, I can eventually grow beyond that, hopefully.
And you have to an extent, because at first I was making you make wisdom checks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well, like I said, I'm been really tickled to see some of this stuff. I mean, you guys have been great, and I mean, like I said, it is really cool to see these new gamers kind of coming into their own and figuring out what they like about the game. I mean, Lauka, Sydney, her she's a pretty new gamer too, and to watch her kind of, I mean, you're right. Lauka's fucking hilarious. Lauka's fucking hilarious, and
yes.
I mean,
do you need my help?
For those of you guys who haven't played the game, she is, or haven't seen the game, she is essentially a spoiled brat.
And she's not shy about it.
She's not shy about it. She's I picture kind of like Paris Hilton during the the Simple Life era, where she's just
huge.
Yeah. She's just like, yeah, she'd be the one that would be like filing her nails and kind of chewing gum. Not there's gum in D&D, but chewing gum and and then just like periodically, oh, magic missile. And or
or her well manicured like hand, like earthen grasp hand that is like has like
we have to go into the dungeon. Oh, my dress is gonna get dirty.
The fact that she took mending.
Well, she took mending just so she could keep fixing her dresses.
Yeah. I mean, that makes total fucking sense. I mean, I would think that she would also have probably at her earliest convenience get what is not thaumaturgy?
Prestidigitation.
Prestidigitation.
Well, that's what she has Uriah for.
Right.
Yeah, she's got Uriah for that.
Which is actually, I love my interaction with Lauka because of prestidigitation.
Right.
I love the fact that like her and I, that's like our thing together. They're like, oh, okay. And I just came up with like the vanilla and I don't know,
lavender,
vanilla and lavender scent just for her. And I'll just cast it nearly at will, just so that way to keep her happy.
Right. And that's and it's so funny because that's what so many of us do. Like I picture Merrick Harris like I said, he's not. He one of the reasons why he's never, because she's very pretty, but one of the reasons why he's never been into Lauka is because she's kind of a spoiled brat, and so she and he doesn't like that, but he loves her because they were raised together. Their parents were neighbors. They were, basically, it's not like their castles were right next to each other in a suburb, but they were.
They're childhood friends.
They're childhood friends. They would see each other a lot. They might have gone to school together or classes together or whatever. Had
attended
similar
balls together.
Yeah, exactly. There it was part of the the social life of their particular era or where they lived. But I always picture him as, because we've been traveling together, as the kind of guy who's always apologizing for her. She'll make some sort of comment. And he'll be like behind her looking at the person she's talking with. And paying for shit that she's just like, whatever, and breaking, or maybe she's breaking, or she does, oh, sorry, I ripped that, just whatever. At the same time, I don't think Lauka's not a bad person. She's a product of her environment, of who she was, of her upbringing and stuff. And
she was taught to view herself above other people.
Right, exactly. And I don't even know what her alignment is. You'd have to look, but if it's better than neutral good, I'd be surprised. She's probably more like a chaotic neutral or something like that, because she's just, she definitely does. She's not going into these dungeons and shit if we weren't getting paid for it, or we weren't getting.
She's not doing it out of the kindness of her heart.
And I love the fact that I think it was me that actually added the idea. Is like, she's gonna hit level 20, and her dress is going to be basically made out of magic gemstones. Like, she's gonna have this entire dress made out of mystic gemstones that floats around her or something. So, and it's just going to be, I don't know, whatever. But because every time we find gems, are there any jewels? Are there any gems?
Yeah.
I like.
But she pays for them.
She does.
She does pay for her gems.
But even that, it provides a lot of like fun role play too, because I'm the investigator in the group. I have the highest investigation, so I'm usually searching for anything. So whenever I find jewels, I try and hide them from her, like just for the role play aspect of it. And I think that Chris usually has her like roll for it, and like, did she notice that I'm hiding something? And like, yeah, she does. And like,
she's got like a sixth sense.
Yeah.
I do feel like,
but that's
her
all part of the
gem
role
sensor
play of the
tingling.
character, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. I do feel like there are many a times when I'm like, when we're gaming and whatever, and like there are times when I just feel like Merrick Harris kind of is the guy that's like, all right, Lauka, or all right, Phelan or whatever, shut up, let's do. Like, he essentially kind of to move things along, because they are so funny, and so there's so much character involved that that my character ends up rolling his eyes a lot. Oh God, you know, and
Well,
and
you've
kind
been
of like-
traveling with the two of them. I mean, you've known Lauka for your whole life, but you've been traveling with Phelan for longer than even the campaign's been
because
going.
he because he latched on to her,
Right.
when we were traveling along, right?
He
So,
was
yeah,
he was
I-
at her father's court.
right.
performing.
And there's a lot of, but like I said, yeah, because of their shenanigans, I think he's almost like the reasonable one of the group, of the three of us, and America Harris, and so he's the one that's like, you know, just all right, okay, I'll pay for it, you know, just let's go, you know, or whatever. And I think that's kind of funny. It's almost the straight man of the group, you know. It's almost like the guy. You got the spoiled brat, and you got the kind of silly moron, you know, and I'm the guy that's kind of wrangling them, like keeping, it's like pointing Lauka in the right direction, like she's a pistol, you know, just get her in the right way.
I love that Ian because Phelan has an intelligence of what, 7?
7, yeah.
That he will purposely mispronounce large words.
I love it.
That's his like inspiration
Confuse
from Zap Brannigan.
Minors as in young people with minors as people who physically mine.
Yes.
Right. Minors, not minors.
Stupid shit like that I just love.
That's some funny oh my God. You know, he has done that a few times.
I told you about the Ganam joke, right? Because so for those who don't know, Ian and I work together.
Right.
And I know he like premeditates like some jokes. And there was one day I'm making a mead. He was packaging. They had hit a pause point, and he walked by and he goes, you know, I never met a Ganam before, but I hear they're really interesting people. And he just walks away. And I'm standing there and I'm like, did you mean no?
Zap Brannigan.
I was there
Phelan
when
is
Ian...
Zap Brannigan.
Yeah. No, that's exactly who he based his character off of.
Yeah, it's glorious.
I was there when he wrote Talk with Botanicals. We were in mid-conversation in the lab, and he just breaks out with, oh my God, I got it. I'm like, what just happened? He starts singing Talk with Botanicals to me in the middle of a conversation about Civilization of Zombie Killer.
That is actually one of the things I will say is I truly appreciate him coming up with songs for like some of his spells and things like that. Like Fairy Fire, I think is hilarious.
Yeah,
because he used Ring of Fire as his but I love the parodies that he does. I think
Thunderstruck for the
I really like a lot of the stuff that he comes up with for that, and the fact that I give him that Cittern. And he goes out and he's like trying to find one on
real life, yes,
online
and looks up like the whole history behind them, and
it's and that was the other thing too. That is a serious magical item.
It is
particularly for a 6th level character, man. Yep. That was when I looked it up. I went, "Fuck!" I mean, it's like it is serious.
Oh well, did you see my reaction to it? It's actually considered an uncommon item.
Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
No, like when I was doing all the research for it, like Chris like messaged me and I looked it up online. I'm like, what is that? Because it's like with the power that it had, or it had the potential. Like
it's got 6. I think it's 6 different spells it can cast
per day.
Once per day.
Once per day.
That's a big deal.
Without using slots, right?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. It is actually, I mean, it's akin to like a Staff of Magi or kind of close to maybe not quite as powerful as a Staff of Magi, but for a bard and at this level, I mean, it is actually seriously going to increase his effectiveness in combat.
Now, the thing is that a lot of those spells are concentration spells, though. So he can only cast them one at a time. So,
but still, he has them at his disposal without utilizing his own spell slots.
Right.
But it wasn't one of them like web, and another one. I think one of them is like lightning bolt or something.
No, he doesn't have either of those. It's fly. Let's see. It's Instrument of the Bards.
So cool as
Yeah, like
item, though.
when I was going through it, it was like, holy crap! Like there's just like
So his
I
particular one has fly, invisibility, levitate, protection from evil and good, and bark skin, cure wounds, and fog cloud.
The cure wounds
great.
alone.
Yeah, and
Fly.
bark skin. I mean,
Yeah.
fly. I mean,
My
those are some
gosh.
very, very
Like
good.
it would.
But the thing
Yeah,
is
knowing the fact
of
that-
those, every single one except for cure wounds is a concentration spell.
Man, if he ever casts fly, it will have to be fly like an eagle.
Oh, you have to let him know that.
Could be free
Oh,
bird.
yeah, okay. You're right. So they all
Yeah,
have.
it could be free bird.
Free
but
bird.
I feel like fly like an eagle would be better.
Yeah.
I think fly like an eagle.
Wow, some of these are pretty incredible. Like, they all have fly, invisibility, levitate, protection from evil and good. And then his Cittern also has bark skin, cure wounds, and fog cloud.
Cellophane man for invisibility.
So-
But the thing is, you guys don't know exactly what it has.
no, we don't know. But yeah,
Well, Euchariah does, and he kind of pretty much told everyone, I think, when he
Oh,
gave
okay.
the Cittern over to him.
even so, man, this is pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good item. So yeah, I mean,
Yes,
I would
and
imagine
like Bob
if we
said,
were to-
it's a lot like prayer beads. It's like
Yeah.
the clerical prayer beads, where you can cast spells without actually having to use those spell slots.
Yeah.
Well, I'm loving the fact that like the Ring of Magic story now, so that way it essentially just eliminated like spell slot waste at the end of a long
Yeah,
run.
when
Like,
I had
the-
the ring for the short time that I did, totally forgot about shield.
You could have done
Shield.
it, yeah.
I know. I could have done it twice. I went back in the episode.
And
I totally forgot about it.
but like at the end of the day, like if anyone has any like Vlauka, like myself or Octavian have any spell slots left, and there's still some in the ring, just throw something in there just for the
Yeah.
sake of it. Like we can always have an extra spell later. Like and that will open up a lot of like interesting planning in the future, like just being able
Who's
to.
Who's got that ring now? Because I know it's been changing hands.
Euchariah has it back.
Okay.
I still have it at the moment, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because it's not easy to just switch it, because you have to do it during a short rest. So
and you still gotta.
You have to attune to it, and I wish that there is a better way to, like the way that I do it. In the notes in D&D Beyond, I type in what is stored in there. I wish that there was a way to like go in and just kind of
Check them off.
have it like more of a list of like first or second, third level, or up to fifth level spell, because you can technically store 1 fifth level spell or 5 first level spells in there.
you could technically store 1 fireball cast at 5th level in there.
Or that, yeah. But there's no way to actually like put in there what's stored in there unless
You have to do it under your notes, yeah.
The
Which is
notes,
how I do it. Yeah.
The notes in Foundry might be better for you than the one in D&D Beyond, because that's what I do for the.
Well, it's good for me, but if I hand it off to you, it still has those spells stored, and
But
you don't.
that's
have
the
that
thing.
anymore.
You can.
No,
that's
that's the
the
nice
thing.
thing about Foundry.
Yeah,
It's
you can-
shared.
Yes.
And you can
Yeah.
share those notes with whoever you want.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
think
like what
we
I do with the
have to do.
party fund. Like
Okay,
I
so
man the
maybe we
party
have-
fund, but everybody
Oh.
can see the party fund.
So maybe that's where I need to actually put that information in there.
Same
as
thing
well
with the
then, too.
quotes.
All right.
I
Well,
tell you, it was kind of an interesting kind of thing that shifted. In second edition D&D, you couldn't cast a spell at a higher level. You couldn't cast
Right.
fireball at 5th level or 6th level, whatever. If you cast you always cast it at that level. In third edition was when they kind of instituted that idea that you could
upcast.
Make it stronger.
make it stronger and stuff like that.
Is Fireball a spell that has always been around in D&D?
Oh yes, and it used to be way nastier. Like because it goes up, it would go up in damage as you got higher.
Yeah. Well, it was way nastier at higher levels,
right.
but when they went to 5th edition, it's actually nastier at 3rd level than it was, because in the old days it was 3d6. It was 1d6 per level of your
Right.
or per your caster level.
Mm-hmm. So
So
yeah,
3d6
so
is what it used to be. So going
first-
to 8d6.
So it's 5d6 actually. When you first got it, it was 5d6 because you were 5th
Right.
level.
because you were 5th level,
Yeah.
and then it would go up. Yeah, 1d6 for every. So at 20th level,
It was 20d6.
20d6. It was
Oh,
nasty.
yeah.
And
I'm talking about in 5th edition. It's
In 5th edition, it is 8d6 to start off with.
That
Bam.
is.
bam.
An
Right.
a 3rd level spell that is 8d6 damage.
It's
Mhm.
fucking
Wizards
rough.
are
And-
AoE characters.
Well, the thing is I saw a thing. I was listening to a thing recently, and that stated about like they purposely make Fireball nasty because they've always felt that Fireball should be one of those spells that no matter what, it's rough. It's a destructive spell, and
It's a fireball.
Exactly, it's a fucking fireball.
I didn't ask how big
lightning
the
bolt is similar, but it's not quite
Yeah.
this done out of the same.
I didn't ask how big the room was. I said I cast Fireball.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing too. Back in first and second edition, you used to have to take into account the volume of the space because and the volume of what your fireball would fill. Because if you cast fireball into a room that was smaller than the volume of your fireball, the fire damage could come out into the hallway, out into the room.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Backdraft.
Backdraft stuff. That was a little bit of kind of a min-maxing of the math and everything, and one of the things that kind of frustrated people sometimes, but it was definitely one of those things.
Well, you used to be able to bounce a lightning bolt off a wall too.
Yeah. Or through people, you could hit multiple targets.
Well, you can still hit multiple people, but it used to be that if you hit a wall and it hadn't reached its maximum range, it would bounce back, and it would hit everyone again in that line.
Oh, holy cow.
So you could actually double up, and now you can't. Now it hits a wall and it stops.
Now they kind of changed it with the chain lightning spell.
Yeah.
Because chain lightning kind of does that. So, but yeah, man, those getting into the stories about the old days there. Speaking of that, I wanted to bring something up real quick about Tracy Hickman. Chris brought this up.
Oh, yeah.
to me, in a conversation we were having. Tracy Hickman, who is one of the original writers of the Dragonlance books and Dragonlance series.
Yeah, I figured we were going to talk about this tomorrow, but we can talk about it.
Well, I still think we should, but I figured we'd talk about it a little bit tonight. Apparently, he wrote he made a post on Instagram. It had a featured
Facebook, actually.
Facebook. A picture of a really great picture of the cast of Critical Role, not the cast, the characters of Critical Role, and then another painting of right below it, a painting of
a Larry Elmore painting, actually.
Classic Larry Elmore painting of the companions from Dragonlance, and it was like, so what was it again, Chris? It was
reject modernity, embrace tradition.
Embrace tradition, and it was. He ended up removing the post because I guess when he was
What
questioned
fascists
about it,
say.
yeah, exactly. It was taken. It was essentially a quote from a book on fascism. And he didn't.
He didn't create the meme. He found it. He liked it. He thought it was funny.
He thought it was funny, and he didn't mean anything
shared it.
by it.
Yeah.
He didn't mean anything fascist by it because, from what I understand, he's actually a big fan of Critical Role and what's been going on in the modern stuff.
Well,
but at the same time, I think because he is an older gamer and an older guy, he's seeing some of the changes that Dungeons and Dragons are going through, and kind of feeling the pain of some of the older gamers that are kind of resistant to some of the changes. And I got to say, I understand what he's saying. I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, these are changes that needed to be made.
Yeah.
Some of them particularly are changes that needed to be made a long time ago, and they're finally being made.
I guess a lot. Some of the stuff that came up too was that there's been some criticism about the Dragonlance books and their portrayal of races and things like that, and that they've said that they are actually kind of racist books.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not so much that they're racist and it's like, oh, they're making fun of black people or whatever.
No, it's racist as in like D&D races.
It's in the D&D because
they are stereotypical.
Right, because at the time those books were written in the mid '80s.
Yep.
When it was it's standard stuff, you know.
The dwarf was
Dwarf-
surly.
Right.
The half elf didn't feel
Stereotypical.
like he belonged. And
Right, the dwarves and the elves don't get along because they just have racial anonymity towards each other and stuff like that. The Kender have, I mean, it's there's a lot of that game setting is based on the differences between the different races, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with these 3 new books that they're writing, because I want to see if they are going to take into account these new kind of attitudes that people are taking towards fantasy, specifically D&D fantasy, because Dragonlance was my jam, you know. I mean, that was before I read Dragonlance was the first kind of serialized fiction that or sci-fi, or excuse me, fantasy that I got into as a when I was a younger teenager. I read The Hobbit. I read a bunch of the Piers Anthony Xanth books, which are very light, but Dragonlance was like my introduction to this kind of fantasy. I mean, I'd been playing D&D and stuff, but you know, where some people were like, Forgotten Realms, I was Dragonlance. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do and how they're going to do things differently with this new thing. So
yep. Well, we should probably wrap things up. I was only planning on this being like an hour or so.
no.
I was just about to ask, did you want to talk about Tasha's at all?
You know what? Let's save that for a future one. Because I do want to get into Tasha's. I got to get into it more. I actually don't like a lot of the things in Tasha's. I think they kind of went a little OP on it. It's very Unearthed Arcana, which kind of, I think, throws the game out of balance. I am going to be going through and creating some things. I'm already working on things like the Artificer and stuff like that to try and bring it more into what I think is aligned with the balance of the game.
You teased that in
Yeah.
the last game, and I'm really excited to actually see that. Like I mentioned, you know, being an engineer in real life, you know, I was kind of naturally drawn to that, to that subclass originally, even going back like to the Unearthed and kind of over a year ago, but knowing that it wasn't something that we were going to be, you know, delving into it all. So that was one of the things that was, you know, I was most interested in when it came to the Artificer.
I was super
Tasha's.
excited. What was that?
That's what I was really excited about, like, also when Tasha's came out. But, you know, I agree that kind of like diving really into it, it's there's
some things like the Twilight Clerics being able to see 300 feet with dark vision. I'm like, that's just ridiculous.
Wow. I have Tasha's, and I really need to like delve into that a little.
There's a lot of things. I'm like,
everyone has access to it. You in D&D and Beyond.
Yes,
right?
there should. Everyone should have access to it in D&D Beyond in our campaign. So, but one of the things with that too, with the Artificer, it's not so much that I'm opposed to what they did with the class. It's a lot of it is that it only takes them a minute to create magical gadgets and things like that, and I think it should be longer for what they get out of them.
Okay.
And things like that. So I also have a problem. There's one of the Artificers that can do, like, they can create a cannon, which I'm fine with. They can create like this cannon that shoots a blast of fire, like a 15-foot cone of fire. But they get to activate it as a bonus action. And it can have legs, and they can have it move around and activate that as a bonus action. So they get that as a bonus action, a 15-foot cone of fire that does like 3d8 points of damage, along with any other attacks that they can do, that they want to do.
Okay.
And I think that's just a little too overpowered.
I feel you. On that. I mean, there's definitely some things that there's always tweaking to be done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, you'd think that they do a lot of play testing. You'd think, you know, does this work?
Well, I think that was out there for quite a while before they published it. I mean,
well, it was out there in our Unearthed Arcana, and then they they would tweak it and supposedly brought it into a line with the game and made it so that it supposedly kept the game balance. But I think it throws the balance out with these new ones.
Well, I mean, if you train to be MacGyver, you should be able to utilize your skills.
They've also got one of the barbarians that can use wild magic when they rage.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I don't think that should be a thing either. And when barbarians rage, I mean, depending on the type of rage,
Yeah.
because I mean, I've gotten into it in my other campaign. One of the guys is a dragonborn barbarian, but he's the he did the ancestral one, and so he doesn't really fly into a rage. He just embodies his ancestors, and they come around him, so he doesn't quite lose his mind in that. But a lot of them, I mean, especially the berserker types, there's no way you're keeping your head enough to do magic, and that was one of the things is that barbarians weren't supposed to be able to do magic when they were raging. You weren't supposed to be able to cast spells. Like if you were
I could see like the use of some sort of like instinctual power, but not.
Yeah.
But actually casting a spell while you're raging, no.
Yeah. Like if you were multi-classed or something like that, you couldn't do both. You could, if you were raging, you couldn't cast a spell. Which I like that idea, but
well, like one of the things they always say, one of the major the golden rule of Dungeons and Dragons, if you don't like a rule,
change
use
it.
it.
Yep.
Change it.
Yep.
You want
the
to
rules?
guidelines.
They're not rules. They're guidelines.
Exactly.
That is rule number one. And actually, that's one of the things. And we'll talk. This is one of the things I want to talk about tomorrow night, though, Russ. Is the differences between the way that D&D approached the issues with race, and stuff, and the way that Vampire is handling.
Yeah. Well, World of Darkness. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I heard it.
I want to talk about that because I posted the thing on Facebook, and I think it's a really cool way that they're talking about it. That thing that we were just talking about though, where if you don't like a rule, change it. That's what they call rule 0 in gaming. Is if you don't like a rule, change it.
Right. That's what homebrew campaigns are for.
Yep.
And I think that you've done a pretty good job keeping that balance. And I've been challenging and asking like some questions based off of like with Tasha's regarding some of the things that you may be open to and what you're not open to, and or even beyond Tasha's and like interpretations on certain things, and you know like just texting you just prior to game, so that way I'm not asking within game, putting you on the spot, so that way I know how to approach certain things and what's appropriate or not.
And just to give you guys an idea,
I think it's been balanced.
Yeah, one of the things that you guys might have a chance to do, and one of the things I'm going to get you, Pete, is I'm still looking for it. I know I wrote it up for my other campaign. Was it was how to learn a new skill or a language or things like that. It's a downtime activity, and you guys may have some downtime coming up depending on what you want to do. I mean, yes, you have. I've thrown a lot of possible hooks at you guys that you could follow up on.
In the last game, you dangled a lot at us.
And so, I mean, it's up to you, though. I mean, there may be a time where you just have some time where you don't have to go do anything. You can if you want to, or you can just hang out in Phandalin for a while. And
like
so,
I mean, I like the idea of downtime activity. I think
we just haven't had any in a year and a half of playing.
I think every adventurer, I mean, if they're not actively out doing on a quest or doing an adventure, they're doing things. They're working out, they're training, they're studying, they're furthering their development as a knight, as a paladin, as a sorcerer, or whatever. I think that was one of those like basic in like earlier versions of D&D, that was like one of those side rules that you could maybe have and whatnot that DMs might use. Like I said, I was talking about my high school dungeon master. He would allow us to do certain kinds of training that would, and when our characters were in downtime, that we could work towards raising our stats.
Yeah.
So you could work towards bringing your strength up to the next level, or work towards bringing your intelligence up by studying or strength training or whatever else. So,
and I've been asking Chris a lot of those questions. Like one of the things in Tasha's was a particular a feat that I'm already thinking level 8, trying to plan ahead and think.
He's 2 levels ahead at least.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of like what I would like to do is like I always like the idea of feats. I don't like the idea of just taking 2 and bumping on my skill like 2 into intelligence. I like having another a little extra that goes with it, like my bountiful luck feat that Chris absolutely hates. I'm pretty sure right now, but
Oh wait, no, I'm always like, nope, he's not 30 feet.
you make sure to point that out every time.
I get it. Like I was just the other night while we were playing a little bit. I pulled up an additional paladin kind of just on D&D Beyond, just kind of recreated Marikaris and kind of was like, okay, what do I do on this level? What am I going to do in the next level? So like
and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
When I hit 8 instead of taking two points in my stats, I'm probably going to take a feat. And then the next one I'll take. The next at 12, I'll take 2 points in the stats, and then at 16, I'll take.
But there was one in Tasha's that I was curious about, and I asked Chris about it. He's like, actually, I have something planned for like that would be more towards learning a new skill, and he explained like the cost and the time that would be associated with that to avoid like bringing something like that from Tasha's in here. That was
it's something I wrote up for my other campaign that I think works.
And I
really
think it's
well.
great. And I think it's great. Like I think that's very reasonable as long as we like commit that time in game.
Well, and going back to your bountiful luck though, what was funny was the one time that you weren't paying attention and I paused long enough for you to get it because somebody was like, all right, I rolled a natural 1 and there was silence and I didn't just go right into it and they were like, I rolled a natural 1
really?
And you were like, what? I don't think you need that.
I don't recall
that was me.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Because I've trained my ear to hear for those natural 1s very quickly.
You were looking something up at the time.
I must have been. I must have been on D&D Beyond on my other computer and like trying to like plan. Because if we're in combat, as soon as I'm done with my attack, I'm already planning my next one. So that way you're not waiting for me. I do not want you waiting for me. I have like 2 or 3 things planned out every single time it comes back to my next turn. So as soon as I'm done, I try and check out and like start planning it. So that way when you get to me, I'm not like, okay. And then I spend like 5 minutes trying to come up with what I'm doing.
And that's what you should be doing. You should be, as soon as you're done, you should be planning your next attack.
And that's what I always try and do. And I try and have, like I said, 2 or 3 things, depending on what everyone else or who goes down or what happens, have some particular backups on what I'm going to do.
And that's why I was trying to let you guys,
what I heard.
Yeah, I was trying to let you guys know, like when you were on deck and things like that. So because we didn't have the combat tracker. Now that we're using Foundry, we have that combat tracker, which I think
it's been great.
Has been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helps speed up combat. It helps me keep track of how many rounds there's been in combat, when things were cast, things like that. So that's been a big help for me.
So, well, before we get on another tangent, we really should sign off.
Yeah, we should get going.
Yes, bedtime is in 4 minutes.
I have to. And
this has been great though. I had a blast. I love just sitting around talking D&D and talking about the game.
I like the fact that we talked about the game, but then we also talked about the mechanics and stuff about Dungeons and Dragons itself. So hopefully
can't get here fast enough, in my opinion.
This Friday, guys. For those of you guys who are watching or will be watching this Friday, we will be playing again at 7:00.
Yep.
On thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
I texted Stella and like 12 times. Can you bring me my tablet? She didn't. I was like, babe. She's just in the other room. So anyway, Friday, 7:00. Drinking Nerds on Twitch, and then later on the Nerds with Alcohol Drinking Nerds YouTube page. So guys, be sure to come visit us, join us. It's a great time. We're having a great time, and just tell all your friends about us because we could use some more subscribers, please.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying this campaign and the game. So, and a lot of that is you guys. You guys are making this game easy for me. So
I feel very fortunate that this is like my true introduction to D&D and
Same.
during my first campaign.
It's
So-
interesting. I'm glad that you say that because there are some people that there's criticism about something called the Matt Mercer effect. Like
Yes.
people that end up watching Critical Role and then expecting a D&D game to be like a Critical Role campaign, and not every dungeon master.
No, they're
is,
professionals.
right. Well, and the fact that just not every dungeon master is Matt Mercer, and he is.
Matt Mercer's my idol right now.
Yeah, the dude's amazing. I mean, he's an amazing storyteller and creative, and not just his creating his story, also as a dungeon master, playing the roles, playing the NPCs, the different voices and stuff. So the fact
I'll tell you what.
You're enjoying this, and that's a good.
Oh my
that's a
gosh.
good compliment to Chris too.
Like I said, every time we finish, for days after every game, I am thinking nonstop about the next game.
I will tell you this:
Same.
watching Critical Role, I watch it sometimes, and I get pissed because Mercer comes up with is doing shit that I was already planning, and I'm like, God damn it! Now it's going to look like I'm copying him.
Copying Mercer, yeah.
This is stuff I had planned years ago, God damn it, and I'm just now getting the chance to use it. This
great,
adventure
think of it
that
this
you
way,
guys
great-
are on.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah,
Chris.
well, that's the thing. This adventure you guys are on has been probably a 5-year plan for me. This is something I've been planning for 5 years and been kind of coming up with the concept of for a long time. And this is the first chance that I've gotten to actually run it.
Cool.
So
well, we're having a great time, and
but you're
glad
mixing
you're getting
like
the opportunity.
But you're mixing like your own like overall arcing story with like existing modules. Right?
And a lot of that was the first module was because it was easy for me to run it, to give you guys an intro into D&D.
For us, yeah.
Since then, I've been adding, like this last one was me using it because we needed something that I could quickly build and use maps from and things like that. So, well,
the Stone Tooth.
The maps were the same and some of the creatures were the same. For the most part, it was a very different module than what that module actually was set up to be. And then that whole Temple of Orcus thing that you guys ran into.
You said
that was all stuff I put in there.
Wonderful.
But yeah,
that was like a game-changing moment, I think, for us. Like, whereas like I honestly felt like our characters like were close to like a TPK is possible. Like we were dangerously close to it.
And that's what that was supposed to give you, is that sense of mortality.
And like leading up to it with 7 characters, I felt like a lot of it was like a little bit on the easier side with so many of us. Like we were getting through things. Like when we fought the Black Spider, we plowed through that pretty quickly, I felt.
You killed him in the time span it took me to go upstairs to use the restroom.
Yeah, but in that moment though, when we were going up against the Orcus thing, and
the Wizard of Orcus fight was harder than the dragon fight.
Yes.
To me, that was the boss fight, not the dragon fight.
Yeah.
It was that.
And he didn't really fight you.
No,
but that's just the fucking Bodak, and
that just shows.
That's
why I felt like it was like more of a like it screwed with us more because he barely did anything, and you could have had him linger on, but he was just toying with us, teasing us, and the fact that we were so
we lost
hell out of it.
We lost that fight.
We were licking our wounds pretty badly after that, and then it was like, bring on a dragon. I want a dragon at this point.
I did not.
But that succubus and the wizard and the Harry Potter thing, like
Bodak.
All right,
guys.
I'm tired.
Yep. So, join us this Friday, 7 p.m. Like Russ said, right here on Twitch. We'll be playing. We'll be continuing the adventure. You'll see what these guys
Tavern Knights.
Yeah, the Tavern Knights. So And then Russ and I will be back tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, right here. Talk more nerd shit.
Same
So-
nerd time, same nerd channel.
So,
Same nerd
all right.
basement.
Well, I think on that note, it's going to do it. Have a good night, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and actually clink us out.
Good night.
Sláinte.
Sláinte, everybody. Have a good week.
Prost.
See you guys later. Please join us. Follow, like, subscribe, whatever you can do. We could use the help.
All
Always.
the things.
All the
All the
things.
things.
All right.
All the
Have a
things.
good night.
Good
Have
night.
a good night. Thank you.